So why is player-facing roles important? And do you think you're giving anything up by doing player-facing roles?
So I'll answer the second question first.
Okay.
Some game masters may not necessarily like the idea of I'm not going to be rolling a whole lot, but Vagabond allows you to also roll d20s if you would like to. It just, I personally feel like keeping the players engaged is more important than the micromanagement of the game master, right? If they're having to pilot, if there's like a big horde encounter and they're suddenly piloting 12 monsters against 4 of the different players and they're having to track this, this, and this, and this, or whatever, I would rather take that mental load off of them. I would rather take that mental load off of them and then let them choose to engage with that if they would wish, right? Now, on the flip side of that, the other question was player-facing roles, mostly player-facing roles. This was a huge thing that got incredible feedback in playtest, making it to where players are rolling for their attacks and their defenses was making players feel more engaged. Like even on the enemy's turn, I'm able to influence the way that certain things happen. I'm not just like, oh, well, it hit this number and now I take this damage and then that's that thing's turn. There's no longer a wait. It feels like the enemy turn is even still active for the players, right? So other systems have been doing this. I mean, I think the one that was the most successful to do it so far is Merkborg, where they're trying to keep combat feeling frantic and quick and grim, right? Merkborg's whole aesthetic is like just dark meat grinder in a sense. And I was like, I love the feel of that franticness because combat should feel frantic. And I would love for the players to really feel like they are in the combat. They're not taking their turn and then waiting 20 minutes until their next one comes around.
And I do hate that. I hate that.
I want them to feel active all the time. And this has made things feel way active.
Well, there's player-facing roles, and then there's something like active defense. Because you could say, okay, the game master is going to roll to hit you by the skeleton, but then you've got to roll to defend. That does, there's something to be said for that. There are also negatives to that.
Right.
But here you're not having the game master roll even to hit. You're just having the player roll to defend.
Monsters are assumed to hit. We're looking at, with the combat system, where can we trim out unnecessary rolls? The big one right now that I'm currently trying to target is the interaction in which an enemy confirms a hit on a hero, and then that enemy rolls for damage, and then the hero is rolling for armor protection, and then they completely negate out the damage. So there's now been like 3 rolls to where nothing happened. There's calculations for nothing to progress, right? There's not, so I'm like, that's the one thing about combat that I've looked at that I'm like, we need to remove a roll there somewhere. We need to figure out how to remove a calculation. So this is what I mean by like, we're trying to streamline it and make it to where combat is going to be fast. I'm trying to focus in on like even the smallest minutia of, I'm thinking of it like a speed runner. All right. If I can find like 2 seconds to shave off of a run, I'm going to try and find it. Right. So this is one of those things that, like with armor reduction, doesn't really need to be down to a die. Could it be a flat modifier? Can we look at potential ways in which maybe it just hinders the damage roll and then they take the lower of the 2 rolls? Maybe something like that. Then this has been, people can see if they come and check out my live streams, because I watch playtests. If people upload it to YouTube, I watch it. And they can see kind of like how I'm taking the feedback on the game, and really where I'm trying to, well, I guess what my ethos is into how combat's going to be quicker, or how we're going to tackle the survival and exploration pillar of play, which is likely coming up as soon as everything with the Kickstarter wraps up.
I absolutely hear you with what you're saying. Is like, hey, we can do a whole lot of the rolling and we can do a whole bunch of calculation and we can do a whole bunch of modifiers and whatever else over the next 5 minutes. And if the end result is, hey, you know what? Nothing happens.
It's
that
a
may
waste.
not be great.
That is the path to slog, right? That is the path to we have a drag happening here.
And I can extend that to even like whole elements of combat, because you could even do combat, which was one of my complaints with 5e when I was playing it with them, is that you can go through a whole combat, but okay, you lose these spells, you lose these hit points, whatever, then we take a rest, and okay, the end result of that combat is that nothing actually mattered.
Right.
Is that good?
Right.
Arguably not.
Yeah, I want to think. I mean, with Vagabond, if you look at the resting system as well, it's like it's not just going to be the thing of. I mean, I know everybody likes to say, this is going to be more cinematic combats or something like that. I personally, I come from more of a like resource management and war game background than I do like traditional TTRPG. Right. I mean, one of my favorite games of all time is Settlers of Catan. Like, that's me, right? So, I even talked about in a live stream how like Catan influenced sorcerer and wizards like identities as a class, right? And whenever I'm thinking about like 5e, it does actually, now that you say that, it does feel a bit more like a resource manager hidden inside of a light combat sim. And it there's a YouTube video in there somewhere.